2 machine guns, daggers, fully weaponized, but old and funky. Building cars is cool, but they're huge. They require stupid amounts of manpower, resources, tools, everything to do it. And motorcycles require a lot less, and they're super cool and super fast. So I had an idea. I wanted to make something that was from another time period, like pre-World War II, but not so old as like World War I, kind of that cool in-between the wars, industrial European setting. And I really like the architecture of the British bikes, the parallel twins, like the Triumphs and BSAs and things like this. But, you know, with my style, I'm like, I want an attack bike, a pre-war attack bike, like 2 machine guns, daggers, fully weaponized, but old and funky, right? So I got going on this, and at the time I had a 2000s Triumph Bonneville. Really great bike, a lot of fun to ride, and very classic looking. It had the same architecture as bikes from the 50s and 60s and even before. And with the right consideration to the time period, could be made into something that looks very pre-war. So I started out with that. And the Bonneville is pretty upright seating. It's kind of boring that way. So first of all, handlebars got to go, seats got to go, tank's really far forward. It was a black bike, black engine, had polished aluminum wheels and all. So for the pre-war English look, I took the wheels off, had them powder coated a deep burgundy red. Okay, so that's kind of cool and foreboding. You got the red spoked wheels with the black bike. And, I like to race, I like to go fast, so I want this to be more of a sport bike. Okay, so yeah, sport bikes exist in modern times, but it doesn't mean somebody couldn't have gone fast on a pre-war bike back then and want to be in this kind of position. They did when they raced bicycles. So dropped it down with kind of a clip-on look that way, and I moved the seat back to stretch it out, or excuse me, the tank back to stretch it out. And for the seat, I came with something more typical to pre-war seats, where they look like a big fat bicycle seat, kind of like was on Harleys and Indians and things like that, but more trim. But where it got really fun in making an attack bike is, so I didn't put real machine guns on it, but what I put were really nice machined metal replicas of the Browning 30 calibers, which came out pre-World War II, so it's time period accurate. And but these didn't have a receiver, you couldn't put actual ammunition in them. But what they did have is a combustion chamber with 2 solenoids that would feed both oxygen and propane to it on a computer-controlled circuit that the solenoids would open and shut at the right amount, at the right timing to do the right cadence of the fire of real machine guns. And of course it had an ignition coil and cylinder and everything like that. And I wired that to the handlebars, so there was a little momentary toggle switch that I could hit with my thumb or my trigger finger here and fire them. So it's cool, you get the same cadence and you get the sound of at least firing blanks. You don't have the sound of the projectile breaking the sound barrier, which is a lot of the noise from a gun. But you do have the big fiery muzzle flash coming out in the right cadence. And then how you would control the power of the fire as well as the mixture would just be the pressure of the oxygen of the propane. Now since it was a motorcycle and it was teeny tiny, this was kind of fun. So I had to figure out how to get regulators and tiny bottles in it. So I found a little medical oxygen tank, like you'd give Nana if she needed oxygen or going out to dinner in her purse. So I got that and I hid that in the leather tool bag behind the seat. And there's just a little hole poking out for the regulator if I needed to adjust it. And then for propane, I used one of the little Coleman campfire tanks, right? And it had just enough PSI, and I was able to hide that behind the motor where the carbs were and in front of the wheel. And I painted it black, I had the regulator on, but you really didn't see it. Because what I did was I effectively had the ammunition, and they were old rounds with the bullet and the shell, but they were loaded with nothing in it, no primer caps. So obviously couldn't go off or cause anything like that. And I had like what would be the ammunition tray under the seat. It was really cool. And I made the aluminum channels coming down to feed the ammo belts to, of course, these really cool foam machine guns down there. And they were actually mounted wide enough, so theoretically, if you turn the wheel, it wouldn't shoot out your tire like people think. It's always funny what people's myths are. They think a DeLorean has gull-wing doors. If you park too close to somebody, you can't get out. Well, not really. They only actually swing out like this far. So with a DeLorean, you can park closer. And if you put machine guns on your motorcycle, as long as you space them out wide enough, yes, you can turn the tire without shooting it out. Fun fact. Anyway, so I was really enjoying where this went, and it was a great look. It was a great bike to ride. When the carburetors got rid of the air filters in the air filter box, and I had just Venturis with a screen in them, so it's a great look. For the exhaust, I had kind of a scrambler fare. It was up high, and they looked great. And they had the megaphones, but they're short, so it looks just tough. The problem with it was, though, it didn't work well for the sport bike configuration with your legs back. And truth be told, your legs would be right on the exhaust, and it wouldn't reasonably be rideable. You'd burn right through leather or jeans or anything like that. But I knew a guy that had more money than brains. And he was trying to build a 2,000 horsepower Lamborghini that never happened. But somehow he got his hands on this aerogel, amazing like space age insulator. You could literally take this black insulator fabric, put it on your hand. It was like an eighth to a quarter inch thick, and put a blowtorch right here. And I could hold the blowtorch directly on my hand with this little insulator for probably 30 seconds, and it wouldn't burn you. It'd be warm, but it wouldn't burn you. So I was able to get like a square foot of that from him, and I safety wired to the exhaust. No big deal. Put my legs right on the exhaust on a winter day. Kind of kept you a little warmer, so it was nice. Anyway, okay, so maybe that's not pre-war, but whatever. It still looked good. And of course, I did a header wrap on the rest of the pipes, but I really enjoyed doing the bike because, first of all, it performed well. It was fun to ride. It was completely ridiculous with these machine guns that would fire, and people would freak out, and you'd ride it to motorcycle meets, and I had, you know, like the British Fairbanks fighting daggers from World War I right there on the gas tank, and I went to the equestrian store, or tack shop, you know, for horses, and I had fine bridle leather that I wrapped around, so all looked pre-war and in English and all, and I was really excited, and I thought it was just a neat character from another time, and I even tried to write a story about it one day and sent it around, and it never really took off. Nobody was really that into it. It got shared on the website Bonification about Triumphs and stuff one day, and eventually sold the motorcycle and whatnot, took the machine guns off and sold them to somebody else, those, you know, guns. But motorcycles are great fun, and that was a great chapter. So I hope you guys subscribe, and I'll share with you some more stories next time.